look, security was different then, right? Now you could never.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Disconnected. I'm here with Mike, who is the president of Dark Star Pictures, who is a partner label of OCN Distribution and Vinegar Syndrome. Mike, thanks for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I've been following you guys for quite some time. I think we're almost at 2 full years as a partner label now, right?
Yep, that's right. Just about that. I mean, with COVID, everything feels like one big year, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's still in COVID years. But yes, about 2 years now.
I keep joking around with my wife that it feels like it's March 327th of 2020 or something like that.
Exactly.
Well, I've been trying to get eventually to all the OCN partner labels. There's so many that it's hard to get to everybody, but I'm glad that I could add Dark Star to the roster because you guys are kind of your own little anomaly as part of the partner labels. There's a lot of labels that have their own niche, but I really appreciate Dark Star because no matter what they announce, you are always surprised. It's always like, wait, this is really interesting, but what the hell is this?
Yeah, we like to keep people on their toes, if possible.
It's worked so far. Is like a general vibe that you go for with Dark Star? Or is it just, hey, this is what we can do?
Yeah, I mean, I think, overall, we are an all rights distribution company. So we're taking movies to theaters and putting them on digital. And, we release lots of movies, every year, somewhere around anywhere between 12 and 20, new movies a year. And that includes things that we revisit, like when we revisited Fair Game, for instance, which came out with OCN and Vinegar Syndrome on Blu-ray. But our mission statement has always been genre films that are interesting and a little bit different. People like to use the word elevated to describe us. I hate that word.
Me too.
I think it's a cheesy, cop out. We just like to do interesting things, And when I started the company, my whole goal was to bring, unique voices out. And kind of spotlight also international cinema, which a lot of people don't do. I like genre pictures. And, the genre audience tends to be a little bit more forgiving than other audiences when it comes to things like subtitles or, large actor names and things like that, which, at the end of the day, I don't really give a shit about. Like, I'm not the guy who goes and watches the Avengers and all this stuff,
Right. I'd
much rather watch Terrifier 2 and Skinamarink and see what's happening, in the interesting world of genre films. And I've always been that way. So I launched that, Dark Star with that in mind, just to kind of bring these cool films that have kind of unique angles, unique voices, a lot of first-time filmmakers, and a lot of international voices. Since then, which that was like our first release was 2018, or general release. Since then, we've kind of bled into other areas. We do a lot of LGBTQ plus films now. And then you see on the OCN side, we actually did Potato Dreams of America, which was a big curveball for everyone because it's totally left field from. That's 2 baseball references in one sentence, yes, but it's totally out there compared to what else you see on the Vinegar Syndrome or OCN other partners release slates, and we like that, right? I mean, at the end of the day, physical media has changed, from where it was, 20 years ago, certainly, but even 15, 10 years ago, now it's much more collector based, and that's almost exclusively what it is. I mean, it's always had collectors, right? But, now it's, the bulk of the business, from where I sit is, wrapped around the collectors. So we're not the company that's going to go out and do manufacture on demand discs, these garbage discs that people put out there, right, that are, they break in the mail before they even get to you. Our whole goal and why we love our partnership with OCN is, to put out pretty rad, releases that showcase these same voices that we want to, that the whole mission statement of the company is, right? So we can showcase short films and Q&A so you can get a better understanding of the filmmaker or the creators behind it, storyboards, things like that. Like, what can we add, to make this a really cool disc? And, so it's, I think the core of what we do is I'm a film guy. I like I like different kinds of films, so you see different kinds of films coming from our label, and that's really it, you know.
That should be the fundamental of what this is for a lot of these labels. So that's a good thing to have somebody that is a film guy at the center of it. So thank you for that. International genre. There's so many releases that have come out from this that are just unique. So many interesting ways. You threw out Potato Dreams of America. Little hint to everybody watching. I'm setting up an interview with the director of that movie because my day job, I work in immigration, and I just like the perfect in to get something going for that film. So thanks for putting that out.
Yeah, and Wes, the way that came about, and you'll talk to Wes, and I'm sure, you could bring this up with him, is, again, it's very atypical. We don't put a lot of our LGBTQ plus films out with OCN because it doesn't always make sense for the audience. Right. But, Wes he's such a big fan of Vinegar Syndrome in general, and he sent me a list of, first he sent me a picture of all his Vinegar Syndrome, Blu-rays, and then a list of everything he has. And then I was, talking to Justin, who I'm sure you interviewed at some point, and Justin was like, well, I know Wes because he's always tweeting about us and, connected to our socials. So I was like, well, it's a natural fit. Let's do this, let's get this one out there, but that was a filmmaker who, came to me and said, hey, I love what you're doing on this side of the business. Can we be a part of it, even if it isn't a natural fit?
Right.
And it is. I love the O card on that one. It's really,
it looks
cool.
Amazing.
That's a loaded disc, man. I mean, that's got it's got the short film that Potato was based on, and we also have two web series that Wes did. They were available online, but only on his own YouTube page. And I'm like, let's put these on there. There can't be drag horror series called Capitol Hill, which I thought was really fun, and we could get on there. So it made a lot of sense for us to take that one and push it out there. And I'm very happy that the audience received it. When it's not a natural fit.
Well, and that's the big thing that I always try to highlight on my channel is that there are so many pieces of media that a lot of places will just lose forever because eventually they're not going to be on a disc. It's very lucky that we get something like what you put on there for that one, because there's tons of stuff that is just disappearing daily at this point, literally.
It's sad. There's big films disappearing too, by the way. I mean, I've been trying to get the rights for Dark Star, the Carpenter movie, forever. It's a tough one.
Can't wrestle that away from VCI at the moment, huh?
Exactly.
Let's see. Just to highlight some of these, I think this was the second release you did with OCN. I've got Last Matinee as well, but I think I've watched that thing 3 times, so I can't even find out where I last left it over there. This is a big one. And then Mother Schmuckers, I feel like a lot of people responded pretty well to that one.
Yes. Mother Schmuckers is a wild film.
The last couple that I've been shouting out to people, King Car, this is a big one. Very interesting movie. And then got to go down the list a little bit. This is one that we've been talking about on our chat many, many times. Private Chat. Why don't you tell us about this one?
Private Chat. It's a fun film. It's that film came to me in the most interesting way. If you've seen the film, the Peter Vack, who's the lead in the movie, he sent me the movie, and I worked with Peter on. Peter, aside from being an actor, he's a writer, director. He's got his hand in everything. Very hands-on indie guy. On the scene, super active, super cool. He hit me up and he's like, Mike, I got a cool film for you. I think it's perfect for Dark Star, and he sends me the film. Well, within the first 5 minutes of the film, I just full frontal of Peter. So what an interesting intro to that one. Coming right in. But it's again, like when I saw that movie, I'm like, wow, this is really, really cool. Ben Hosey, the filmmaker, first time filmmaker, gave me real safety vibes, right? I mean, he's playing that kind of, kind of like Uncut Gems where you almost have a panic attack watching the movie because of how tight the shots are and how closely cut it is. Meanwhile, with this kind of like gritty underground, sexual vibes of this, online gambling and cam girls. I mean, two things that are really dominating, the subculture of our United States right now, right? I mean, like
Yep.
there's that's just something that exists, and people haven't really addressed it at all. And at least in a art house film, and kind of in a, I don't want to say a lighter way, but in a more watchable, digestible way. So I was really like enthralled by it, and I thought, wow, this is a film that people are going to embrace. Obviously, Julia Fox is in there, and we had at that point, Julia had just. She was just in Uncut Gems when we brought it out, and she, was by all rights and purposes going to be a star. Still kind of is a star. She started dating Kanye West and stuff, and got a little weird out there. But we just we thought we had a real gem, and I still think we do. I think that's a film that people will go back and revisit, and I hope they continue to find it. But it's weird because it's a drama. Right? I mean, ultimately, it's maybe a thriller, but it was embraced by genre audiences, and it's actually a film that Justin at OCN he came to me and asked me for it, because we had already released the film. It was COVID, so it wasn't theaters; it was virtual theaters, right. And we released it on digital. And he came to me, a few months later and said, "Hey, I think this would work really well." We weren't even thinking of it as a title, that would work really well for the audience. The Vinegar Syndrome audience, but he believed it would, and he was correct. So we went and got with Ben and put together a whole bunch of special features. I wish we could have a little bit more on that one, but because Ben was such a green filmmaker, he knew there just wasn't that much out there, and there weren't any festival Q&As and things like that.
And the timing of it all with COVID, that took away a lot of opportunities too.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a movie that, could have really done well in some art house theaters, even, and getting out there. So it was a little disappointing in that regard, but, at the end of the day, I think we really maximized what we could get out of, get for the film out in the public, and I'm very happy with it. And it gives you, if you're not familiar with the Dark Star brand, Private Chat gives you like a good understanding of kind of the content that we're not scared of, because it's that would be an NC-17 movie, if it was rated. We don't dare deal with the MPA because you get NC-17s and R's.
The first 5 minutes,
So, and it's also a good indicator of like something that is kind of like left of genre, in terms of what we're doing. So, very proud of Private Chat.
I think that's a good indicator for sure. Right. Yeah. And one thing that you just touched on that kind of highlights for Dark Star as well. Obviously, I'm not like glad that COVID happened, but that was a weird setup for this. But there's so many companies that started either right before COVID or literally tried to launch during COVID that probably faced one of the most difficult times that they're ever going to have to face. And if they came out okay on the other end, that's got to be really like validating for the company themselves. And Dark Star obviously has faced that, with theatrical and with going digital and starting literally 2 years before this global pandemic came and swept away what a lot of people in your position would have been hoping for with festival runs and with wide open theaters and all that. So how did all that affect you as an individual going through all that?
Well, I will say I was fortunate because my wife and I, we moved into a home outside of an apartment. We were in an apartment in the through most of 2019, and then we just moved into a home at the beginning of 2020. And so we were like, thank God we have space. Otherwise, I might be murdered by my wife. But aside from that, it was a real adjustment, right? I mean, we lost money and we lost kind of press and buzz, as you mentioned, festivals falling off, but also theatrical. I mean, to put it really into context, Coco di Cocoda, which you just held up there visually, that was intended to be our big theatrical that year, and we had in 2020. So we had that played at Sundance, and we played some festivals before COVID. We were getting all geared up to go. We had a ton of great theaters booked for the end of March 2020. We had already basically outlaid the cash to put it out there, and have it ready to go, and then only to have everything shut down,
Right.
and to lose it. And, for our films, we really need those things like the New York Times reviews, and we need the attention of outlets, to kind of spotlight things, especially when they're a Danish horror film. Right. I mean, it doesn't have big stars in it. It's not in English, so it is a genre film. So and like I said before, the genre audience is embracing, but, it still to break out into the next level and to get, the audience attention, and then to get like the attention of people at Apple so that they can place it better, so that people can find it,
Exactly.
we need that press. So, it was a real big adjustment outside of, the actual money that was lost, the adjustment to like how you approach these releases, was abrupt. We had to do it quickly with things that were already planned. So it was interesting, but at the end of the day, a company like Darkstar was also in an advantageous position, and I don't want obviously nobody wants to celebrate COVID, but because we're a small company, we're very agile, so we were able to pivot relatively quickly. We were able to adapt things like virtual theaters, which is basically just video on demand, set up through, your local movie theater, which was cool because we could support the theaters. We adapted that technology very quickly. We got on board with someone, and, we were able to kind of like make these, theatricals work. And then also because the studios were either dumping out things like The Invisible Man at $19.99 price point, or holding their releases, and we had a slate of finished films. We were able to, once we pivot our strategies, we could still release new content in the market. People are viewing a lot. We have a lot of eyeballs there. And, now was a great time for indies to go out there and be discovered. So, it was a balance of like, okay, how do we pivot our strategies, so that people know about our movies, and then, maximize the watch time, which, was at a historic high, in terms of people watching things. And actually, the craziest thing is like we started our physical, plans during COVID, and it was really because, I mean, like I'm a big collector, right? I buy stuff from Arrow all the time, Vinegar Syndrome, Criterion Collection, our friends at Shout Factory, all these things, that I buy personally, and I was buying more than ever during COVID because, whether it was I wanted to show my wife something or, whatever it was, sometimes you can't find some of the classic stuff on digital before they launch Criterion Channel. But so I was like, well, why aren't we doing this for our releases? What can we do? So it was kind of serendipitous in that regard that we, at a time where nobody wanted to do anything physically, we decided that we're going to launch in some content in the physical side of the film business. So, but yeah, we came out well, and ultimately, and it was, you take some punches, and as long as you can go with the flow and figure it out, which we were able to do. And I'm happy to say that, I mean, but being a small company helps too, right? I mean, being able to pivot and not have, we don't have some big investor, breathing down my neck, telling me, this is what we need to do. I was able to creatively kind of shift it, my own way, and fortunately worked.
Wait, are you saying you don't have 214 employees at Darkstar Pictures?
No, I wouldn't even know how to manage that, to be honest with you. One other thing during COVID, though, that kind of, is right going into 2020, we had plans to open a Los Angeles office in the summer of 2020. We're just about to sign a lease, get ready and all that. Then COVID kicked in, and it was, now, fast forward to today, we have just foregone those, and everyone still works remotely because, it's just like this business, everyone is efficient, and as long as the work gets done and we can communicate like we are right now, with the Zooms and Google Meets and Microsoft Teams and every friggin' thing there is, we're able to be really efficient. And also, like, people, I feel like it's better for people's mental health, just to kind of have more flexibility. And the way my team works is, we're all people who love film, and we're all people who have lives outside of Dark Star. So it's very amalgamous,
Right.
and people can do their own thing and still get stuff done. And I find it to be extremely efficient and rewarding. Will we have an office eventually? Maybe we'll revisit those plans, but I'm kind of glad that we never did it,
Right.
because of COVID. So, I'm an optimist, Ryan. I look at things glass half full.
Good. That's exactly how most of us should be, especially when it comes to this. I mean, you kind of have to be when you're running a company around physical media that's been told has been dying for the last 25 years, around theatrical, which every single day there's a new article saying the theater is dead, around foreign films that every day there's another article saying nobody likes reading subtitles. Why would you put out a foreign film?
And
all of
Netflix
this
dubbing everything. Why do they do that? That's ridiculous.
Right. So all that happening, you got to stay on the positive side. Otherwise, there's no Dark Star.
Right. Exactly.
That's how it seems that they want this to go eventually.
Yeah. Well, the business has always been that the big guys want to squash the little guys. When I worked for another distribution company, when I started in the business, and when I came in, it was like digital was just really kicking in the gear, right? Like
Right.
the company I worked for were still making them probably 70% of their revenues were generated by physical media. And digital was just kind of kicking in, 20% of that was international sales, by the way. And then 10% was digital. So it was very small, and then that started to build and build and build. And when I first started working with people like, a big streamer that has a red logo, they would buy, I would pitch them, say 15 movies a quarter, things like this. They would come back, they would buy 12 of them. So you're
Right.
talking about doing 40, 50 movies a year with these big streamers when they first started. And then what they did was they just took all the data. They didn't share any of the data, and then went and made it all themselves. Now you fast forward to today, you're hard pressed to find Dark Star movies on that said streamer. It's like,
Right.
and it's not because we don't release movies that people are interested in. It's because the big guys want to control the market, and they want to do things on their own terms. And that's why we have a strike like this. It's like it does ripple. The ripple effect does come over to the indie distributors as well. We're kind of kicked at the same time. And it's kind of from both sides, right? I mean, we've been getting beat by the streamers and the studios. Get beat up every year. It gets worse, and now we have actors and writers who are rightfully striking, but that hurts us, right? If they're pulling out of press for some indie stuff that we're doing, which is happening. I mean, I understand, solidarity. I totally am with it. But not it. And poor us, right? But people don't think about how it affects other
Right.
other people, just like the below the line workers, right? I mean, like they're
Exactly.
affected when films aren't going. So it's a wild business, but it could be worse. I could be a dentist.
Well, I'm hoping that you smile more doing this than as a dentist. One of the big things to really kind of go down the same path there is you do so much in theatrical, and you can see that just by going to the Dark Star website, because it's primarily like, hey, look at what's coming, look at what's in theatrical, you can go watch this. But just like I just said, every day we're inundated with these reports of the theater experiences dying. But really, I kind of want to see what your feelings are, because obviously for the studios, sure, it might be dwindling because people are less likely to go see Ant-Man 6 in the theater because it's the same as the last 5 Ant-Mans that they've seen. But when you have the chance to see Fair Game in the theater, you might go watch Fair Game, because when are you ever going to get a chance to see something like that again? So as an indie, how do you feel like the I guess just the environment is for you on the theatrical side right now?
Yeah, well, the issue overall with theaters is that they've been so reliant. They've relied on, the tentpole studio titles for so long, and now the studios just regurgitate ideas, right? I mean, if you go look at a list of, the upcoming studio films, they're all sequels, remakes, and, franchises, so it's like, it's just all regurgitated bullshit. I mean, if you look, but like, what are the two most popular films right now from a studio? Barbie, which is big IP, and Oppenheimer, which is from an auteur director, right? So, like, I mean, those are okay, but the from our side, we've always had to look at the adjustment in theaters. We've always been more reliant on the local art house theater than we are the local chain, and that's always been our business, right? And really the theatrical experience is much more like going to a museum. And I don't mean that it's because it's, when you go to a museum, there's old pictures, there's old paintings there, and theatrical is antiquated. I mean that it's an experience. So, you need to create, audience experiences. You need to have Q&As. You need to do, special event type screenings, that can really get people interested and, off their couch, to come out and come back to a theater to see something. COVID was a real big gut punch. People were like, hey, I'm going to get the movie here quick, on my TV. My TV's pretty good. I've got surround sound. I can make my own popcorn. I can pause it if I need to go to the bathroom, and that's convenient. So like, we lost a lot of the theatrical experience, coupled with the fact that, studios are bringing out kind of those stale ideas. We think more than ever it's important that you create some kind of event, wrapped around that theater, whether it's just a Q&A or if that's something that you could do where you can tie it in with, some kind of, marketing, promotional type event where you can, say you pair with a local organization who's going to host some, an event that's tied to that. Those are the kind of things that we like to do with our movies. And then in general, I think from the one area where theatrical is still viable overall is genre movies, right? There's kind of an insatiable, desire for genre content and interesting genre content. Once again, you look at Terrifier 2, you look at Skinamarink. These are multi-million dollar grossing films, small budget films, and with no cast, on either one. But what do they have in common? They're unique, horror pictures. And that's, that is something that we think, you can continue to prop up. Foreign films are a little bit more difficult. So what we try to do is find our groove. Where can we sit in the theater space with the right locations, being the art houses that have kind of built-in audiences, right? People who trust the theater's brand, right? People don't trust the AMC brand; they just go to AMC because it's a vehicle, right? But if you have your local, like Laemmle Theaters here in Los Angeles, they do a great job of programming content across the board. Sure, they're showing Oppenheimer and Barbie, but they're also going to be showing, our Stephen King documentary. They're going to be showing, a foreign. We have, Belgian, but French language, horror film from that won Fantasia last year, the Fantasia Film Festival. Crazy ass horror film about a serial killer. That they're going to be showing that next month. So so it's finding that kind of place where with the brand of theaters that believes in the film and has the audience that believe in the theater.
Right.
So partnering with them, and then also just genre content in general.
Well, and not even just theatrical, but even on the physical side, Dark Star is kind of the perfect example of how this is the perfect metaphor for what's going on with theatrical, because most of us, we can't trust. Universal and Warner Brothers have shown us this year what they care about physical media. Warner Brothers kind of bungling the US release of The Exorcist 4K that's coming out in a couple months. But the theatrical experience, if you go to a local art house, it's the same as going to a boutique distributor, basically, to get a solid release with a ton of extras, because you can make this an experience. You can trust that art house to give you better customer service, better amenities when you're there, and something where they actually show that they care about the films rather than they care about getting into your wallet for the most part. So
that's a great parallel. I mean, it's true. It's curation and kind of care, right? Like,
right.
what can you bring your audiences? And that's really what we always want to do, no matter what level of release it is. Soon they'll figure that out for the digital side of things too, but until at the moment, I don't know if that's the case.
Well, hold on as long as we can, I guess. So to continue with Dark Star, I always try to ask people for the first time that they're on with me, what are a couple titles that have kind of flown under the radar that you're really wishing people would have grabbed onto? Because I feel like one of them is probably going to be The Icarus Line Must Die.
Well, so the Icarus, I'm glad that you mentioned the Icarus Line Must Die. So that's our second release ever, and like for all films. Again, we revisited the film for our OCN release. That movie, it's not quite a horror movie. It fits in this gray area. It's in black and white. Scares people when it's in black and white, but it's a very cool movie. I mean, this is a movie that's like, the post-hardcore scene in Los Angeles. You don't see a lot of movies wrapped around that, and you certainly don't see narrative thrillers, wrapped around that kind of scene there. You've got some icons of punk rock, Keith Morris. Yeah. We had such a fun time working with that film. Michael Grodner, the director, I'm still very close with him. We're trying to make more films together. This film it's just unfortunately never really grasped an audience that we wanted it to. We thought, it could grab the music audience and it could grab the genre audience, but instead it kind of just floated in the middle, and found, some indie audiences.
Right.
So, that's a film where it's like, man, I do think, I think Michael's going to make an amazing film soon, and people are going to revisit his work. And that's, one thing we always believe with our, that's why we like to work with first-time filmmakers and kind of up-and-coming voices, because we feel like they're going places, when we see something like that. But, it's tough when you love a film so much and it doesn't land as well as you'd like it to. That being said, I did think the reason why we came out and redid it and, added special features and did a physical release on it was because, we said, well, maybe, this is the audience that we needed. Maybe the audience wasn't there when we put it in. We did well in LA when we released it theatrically. Naturally, we had, a concert, like we had Joe, the lead singer of the Icarus Line, perform, and it was amazing. And we had Keith DJ,
That's awesome.
a party, which was also like, I'm here with Keith Morris. I mean, this is fucking awesome. But but the outside of that, it was like it never really landed in the digital world. It was too small, or black and white or whatever it is. People don't know who the Icarus Line is outside of LA, or actually they're huge in the UK. But so I was talking to Michael and I said, we should put this out on our OCN line. And, I think this is the same customer who shops Vinegar Syndrome, often intersects with the customer who's buying vinyl. And that's kind of who we need. And, it's going well. Like, this is the first time we've seen, kind of a surge around the film like I expected it to be. Now, it's not going to, it's not going to change the world, but, it is finally, it feels like people are starting to, kind of embrace the movie, and we have found that right audience. So it's a good, it's a good kind of example of, how audiences differ, right? I mean, like the theatrical audience is sometimes different than the digital audience, who is sometimes different than the physical audience. I always say the ideal customer does all three, but there's not too many of those. So the Icarus Line definitely flew under the radar. Another one that you held up earlier was King Car. King Car, is it struggles because for whatever reason, Portuguese films, you know, are kind of always a little bit difficult in the U.S. Because they're not. It's not Spanish, you know. But you know, we do French films and they do well, you know, and different language films that do just fine. But for whatever reason, Portuguese always seems to struggle in finding footing. But you know, I was just when I watched King Car, it's like, wow, what a talented filmmaker, you know, on such a tight budget to make such a cool science fiction film and create a world, you know, with really no money. I mean, that movie is really low budget, but it doesn't look that low budget. And the world that's created is extremely unique. I mean, like, you know, people laugh, but I'm like, it gives me kind of Blade Runner vibes because it's a creation of a world. Like, it's completely unique. And, you know, I also love just the social context of it because, you know, to me, film, you know, it's talking about, you know, obviously, you know, how corrupt the Brazilian government is and, you know, what's going on there, which is awful. You know, the gap between, you know, the wealthy and the poor is more present there than most countries in the world, you know, and it's awful. It's very corrupt. But, you know, but what I love about the movie and what I think film can do overall, and a big reason why I'm involved with film, is that, like, it doesn't beat you over the head with the message. You know, it's not a social commentary documentary. This is not a Michael Moore film, you know, where it's trying to preach to you and, you know, push an agenda on you. It's just a cool science fiction film that happens to have a backdrop that is politically inclined, and, you know, people can learn from that and embrace it and see that, or they could just watch a cool sci-fi movie and not, you know, and that's it, you know. So it's that's one thing that I really, really liked about that film. And, you know, again, kind of like similar to the Icarus line, I do think, you know, the filmmaker is going to go on and make something really impressive. You know, she is going to be making, I'm sure she's going to make an English language film next. She's got, you know, representation here in the U.S. now, you know, so you see a lot of this, you know, international filmmakers who, you know, can stretch a dollar, go a long way. They come to work in the U.S. People give them money because they can stretch, you know, that dollar, and then they're making English language films. Hopefully not for a streamer, but you know, for someone. And I think that people will be able to rediscover that. But, you know, I thought with our OCN release, you know, again, this is like a good way to get an audience that is active on social media, can help build the word of mouth buzz around this film, and talk about really the cool visuals, right? That you have, because I think that's kind of the driver on that film, and then people will eventually catch on to, you know, the social context, and, you know, also push that out there. But you know, that's one that, you know, I'm really hoping people discover more of. And I think, you know, another one, and that is, you know, it's polarizing is what I'll say, is Mother Schmuckers. I mean, Mother Schmuckers is, you know, I mean, that's just a crazy ass film. It's our ode to our homage to John Waters is what I always feel like, right? You know, and I'm a huge John Waters fan.
Nice.
See it, but there's a Pink Flamingos, you know, one sheet in my closet there. You know, Mother Schmuckers is a film where I watched it at Sundance, and I'm like, what the hell is that? It opens with them cooking and eating shit, right? Trying shit like. You know, this is wild, you know, polarizing when it comes to critics. You know, I mean, we did a trailer on that one that was like, watch the film critics hate, and we just had like all the quotes, disgusting, you know, we'll make you vomit if you watch this, you know, kind of stuff, which I thought was really fun. But, you know, it's French language. It's from Belgium. The Guit brothers are Belgians. And I feel like that's a cult movie, you know, in the making. We wanted it to be a cult movie, and you can't manufacture something being a cult movie.
No,
it's like, you know, people who try to manufacture things going viral. You just can't do it. You know, Mother Schmuckers, you know, dealt with the blow of COVID, right? I mean, we watched, that was a virtual Sundance, so I had Sundance at my house. And I watched that movie, and then we picked it up and put it out, right towards the end as things were starting to kind of come out of COVID. But I feel like, again, it's a movie people will revisit. It's a movie that will come up on things where people, just the title alone, if someone sees that title, they're like, what the hell is this? I think the filmmakers are going to go on and make some cool stuff that people will come back on. It's kind of the same story, right? But just in a different way. Like, this is shock cinema. We don't have a lot of that anymore.
Right.
There in the 80s, there was tons of it. In the late 70s and the early 80s, you had tons of shock cinema. People who were going after that, in big ways, right? I mean, like there were studios willing to get involved with people like John Waters, who was just making crazy ass movies that would shock you. And like in a lot of ways, I felt like with Mother Schmuckers, we could kind of get back to that a little bit, at least with our little slice of that,
and it's the type of movie that OCN fans, when they see a trailer that says, watch the movie that made people vomit, you could see OCN fans going, I kind of want to get this.
Yeah, we wanted to do scratch and sniff cards. They're actually very hard to produce nowadays. So we couldn't do it, but I really wanted to do scratch and sniff cards where you could like smell the homeless, and there's lots of homeless people smell the dumpster that they eat out of course, smell the shit. Again, that's smell. That's an ode to smell-o-vision, right? I mean, back in the day. So. For me, it's like, oh, this is a fun movie, and sure, it's disturbing. Some of the things are over the top, but that's its intention. And I love that. I love a film that's self-aware like that, and can kind of make fun of itself. And I think it's a film that anytime no matter what, you have a reaction to that film. You might hate it. And you might love it, but you're not going to be in the middle. You're not going to say, it was okay. It's polarizing. So, and I love that, man. It's like, I want to do stuff like that. I want to do stuff that makes people argue and engage, right, with cinema. That's what film should be. It shouldn't just be a big, sure, it should be spectacle, right? But like, it should create conversation, whether that's conversation about what the Brazilian government's doing, conversation about, why this movie is fucked up or just, general, like how it made you feel, and that's why I do what I do. Right. It's like to stir up emotion, no matter what that emotion is, I think that's
the thing on announcement days when there's a Dark Star that's in this, tidal wave of OCN announcements. For some reason, I seem to always be drawn to it for who knows what reason, depending on the title. But there's, the odd ones, obviously, that are just like, what the hell is Mother Schmuckers? But then you've got certain things that are random styles, like you just recently did Attack of the Demons, and one, you see this come up and you're like, oh, that's a fun looking slipcover, what's it about? And then you wait, hold on, how did they make this movie?
Yeah, Eric is a talented guy, man. It took some time to put that one together. That's construction paper horror, man. Let's go. Right. I mean, it's dude, I mean, I'm a huge South Park fan, right? Like, I've fallen off. I don't watch South Park as much anymore, as I did 15 years ago. But like, it's crazy that South Park's been on that long. But like when I saw this movie, and it was super under the radar. Eric is Eric Power, the filmmaker, and he's also one of the voices. His wife's also a voice there. I mean, he does this in his garage, man. Like in Austin, he's just in his garage, making these films. He did another film. I mean, I guess it's featured, but it's about 52 minutes, called Throne of Blood. And it was a samurai one. And I'm a huge samurai fan, but it was, same style, construction paper samurai movie. But it was like so gory, chopping off heads, like crazy ass, like a Takashi Kitano fucking, construction paper samurai movie. And I was like, who is this guy? And I found it randomly on YouTube. It was like, I just watched it, because I have a weird obsession with samurais. But, So like I saw that. I found a way to get in touch with him via a producer that I work very closely with, and a good friend of mine also from Philadelphia, Josh Goldblum, who he produces all the VHS movies, and he just did Kids vs. Aliens, which is really fucking cool if you haven't seen it. But great guy, Philly guy. We're both Philly dudes, and he's like, hey, I can connect you with Eric. I know him.
Nice.
And we got in touch, and it was just like, I don't know if I don't do animated films. So, I have never released anything animated. I mean, ever, like in my career before Dark Star,
Right.
never anything animated. And it's like, you think animation, you think Disney and Pixar and kid stuff, right? Like adult animation, obviously there are a few examples, but there's not a lot. So, but when I saw this, it was just like the level of like, you would never think you could do a gory construction paper animated film, or create like these creatures, that are just amazing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so I like just the artistry wrapped around Attack of the Demons is, was just mind blowing to me, and I loved it. And the funny thing is the first physical release we had on Attack of the Demons was not that Blu-ray; it was actually a VHS. we did a VHS release on it first, a limited press VHS release. There are some companies out here. Shout out Lunch Meat VHS.
Lunch Meat is great, yeah.
They called me up. They said, "Hey, dude, we want to do this," and I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess people buy VHS tapes now.
Oh, yeah.
Aren't they expensive to ship? How do you get a VCR? I mean, I guess your local pawn shop. But so we did that, and that sold out immediately. Very limited. I think we did like 30 units, something very small. But it sold out immediately, and I was like, "Shit, let's look at OCN, and let's do this, because I think it's going to be something that crowd will love, And I showed Justin. Justin was on the fence, to be honest. He was like, "I'm not sure. We haven't done a lot in this vein," and I'm like, "But let's give it a shot." We didn't have as much. There's not deleted scenes. There's not on any of this stuff because it's all made specifically, for the film. So there wasn't a ton of stuff that we could add to it. But Eric and I got everything that we could. I got everything I could out of him. We really, really milked it down, and it turned out great. And I'm really happy that we did that one. And again, it's just something that I'm super proud of, because it's like, how often do you see something like Attack of the Demons?
Exactly. I had a pretty cool moment with this, because one of the things that started me doing everything that I've been doing is I post all of the boutique announcements on social media, give love for all of them, make sure I list all the special features and all that. And the writer of this, I guess, is Andreas Peterson. I don't know how you say his first name. I guess he's followed my stuff for a long time, and he was like, "Whoa, like a company or a group that I love is posting about a movie that I wrote. This is amazing." And I was like, man, I'm buying it again just to make sure that you feel supported, because it's the type of thing, just the love around that community is just amazing to feel.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And, and that's something that's such a labor of love, I mean, like, all films are a labor of love. Yeah. But, like, when you're sitting in your garage and you're cutting out,
for days.
Pieces of... weeks, to do one scene, I mean, it's just remarkable, man. And everyone should check out Throne of Blood too. I think there was a Blu-ray release recently on it. Obviously I don't have the rights to the movie or anything, but it's super cool. If you like Attack of the Demons, check it out. Check out everything Eric does. He's working on a new project too, so I'm very, very excited. Yeah.
And the most recent release from Dark Star that you have out through OCN is The Queen of Hollywood Boulevard. Yes. I've actually not been able to watch this one yet. Can you pitch it to viewers?
Yeah. So Queen of Hollywood Boulevard is it is really a grungy, play on the crime thriller. This is about the gritty underworld, of Hollywood, right? And kind of what goes into that. And it is, you'll feel dirty after watching it. It takes you through the strip clubs and the gangsters.
I'm sensing a pattern through most of these, but feel dirty.
It's private chat. I mean, this predates private chat. But much more. But Private Chat is based in reality. Queen of Hollywood Boulevard is much more of a world, created by Orson, the filmmaker, and he created this kind of this grunge scene that you can kind of like, you feel like, again, that's just dirty kind of walking through it, and it's very neon soaked. It's very distinct in terms of the look and the aesthetic that you get. If you think Drive in terms of colors and kind of the world setup, and even kind of like the Albert Brooks character in Drive is very much like Roger's character, the villain in Queen of Hollywood Boulevard. So you get vibes of that, but it's like if Drive was made, as an NC-17 movie, right? I mean, this is like much darker, and it also, like, the one thing I love a lot of things about the Queen of Hollywood Boulevard, but my favorite part is that the Queen, the title character, is actually the filmmaker's mother. And if not for anything else, see it for her performance and know that this is the filmmaker's mother. I mean, because this is a grungy, NC-17 type movie, and Rosemary, the filmmaker's mother, who's the star, is she's going full in, on it, and it's interesting for that alone. But it's a movie. It's all another cool thing about this. It's filled with little cool, interesting bits. One of which is a sad one, but it is Michael Parks, the great Michael Parks' last film.
Yep.
Which is amazing. There's a piece of artwork in there that was made by one of the Manson family from prison that is showcased in the movie.
Nice.
I mean, there's all kinds of little tidbits that you'll find, and you can research. It's filled with Easter eggs, and overall, it's it was Orson's first movie. He's gone on now to do a couple different films, that are a little bit more modern and commercial than the Queen of Hollywood Boulevard. But we met on a rooftop bar in LA by chance, and he was like, "Hey, sounds like you're doing cool genre movies. I've got something that is probably up your alley." And we quickly established that we have the same taste in film, and
Nice.
We just went in on it. So Queen of Hollywood Boulevard, man, I mean, I'm again, that was one of our first couple releases, and then we revisited it for this physical release, and I fucking love it. I mean, it's sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
Yeah, cuss away.
I'm from Philly, man. We it's hard for us to bite our tongues.
It's not even a question. Go right ahead.
But like, I just I love that movie. I think it's something that's like spot on for the audience. The reason we took a little longer to get that out is because Orson has been shooting another movie, and we were just trying to put together what we can add to it for special features to make it juicy. But I'm happy. I'm happy with that one, and people should check it out because the Rosemary Hochschild's performance is out of this world, and it's the filmmaker's mother. That'll make more sense after you watch it, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I definitely need to put my copy in. Again, this label has done so many cool things in just a short amount of time, and then on top of that, all the theatrical. It sounds like there's a lot of cool things coming. We got to talk about Mike himself, like behind the label. How did you get to be a film guy in the first place?
Oh, well, it's just like anyone else. I fell into it. I was, I went to business school, a fairly prominent business school, and I wasn't super interested in going the finance route. Like most of my college buddies and contemporaries, they're either on Wall Street or working with hedge funds now. They're vampires, in the best way possible. But it just wasn't that life wasn't for me. Like I was the guy
Right.
who was showing up to business school with like a baseball cap and my sweatpants, and people were wearing fucking suits, and it's just like, that's just not me. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. So it was like I kind of struggled with, what path do I take? I'm getting this great education. What can I use it for? Meanwhile, I was always very interested in film since I grew up in Philadelphia. My dad and I, would go to the local. We called it a matinee theater. It was called the Devon in Philly. Like you walked in there and your shoes would be stuck to the ground because it was so sticky and gross. But they would show all kinds of really cool stuff, and stuff that was like. For me, it was like, just taking me to a different world, a world outside of Philadelphia. I grew up in a blue collar family, in inner city Philly, like we barely saw any grass, the grass was in the local park. So film was always like, wow, this is, something that it takes you somewhere else,
Right.
And I was always, to reference my earlier point, I was always enthralled with samurais, right? Like I saw the Seven Samurai and I was like, whoa, what the hell is this, as a kid, and then I found Yojimbo and all these things, mainly Kurosawa films, going down that path. I never thought there was a career in it though, right? So I had always embraced film and loved film forever. So when I was in college, I was getting this business degree, but you had to fill credits for, writing seminars and science credits and these things. And I was able to take all film courses to kind of fill those. So I was taking all these film courses and like, okay, I'm looking at my film courses and my business, school classes. And I'm like, well, obviously I enjoy one more than the other. So I still didn't think there was a career in it, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing. And then I took a business of film course, and that was great because it was tied to, my business school was actually a business credit, but it was a film course. It was the first time the two worlds merged.
Interesting.
And it was really great. And actually, it gave you behind the scenes. I went to the University of Pennsylvania, so we had, access to, wonderful professors and, amazing resources, that come along with an Ivy League school. Right. It was great. So they were able to bring in, executives, people from behind the scenes that you don't talk to or know about, right? As just a cinephile, right? You're just watching the film. And it was so different than like my history of film course, because like now I'm talking about the guy who gets the movie made or how he gets it out there, or the marketing person. And they would come in every week. There would be one lecturer, on Friday, who would come in and lecture you, for the whole, hour of our class about, the business of film. So I was taken by it. So come, summer of junior semester going in the senior year, there was a program that could take you to the Cannes Film Festival that the university had. So I took a loan out. Again, blue collar inner city kid. We had no money, so I took a loan out to go to Cannes. I got into the program. I got accepted. It was Penn and Cannes, and basically the goal of the program was, you go, you get a pass. It's like the lowest pass you could get at the festival, and you could watch movies, and you watch movies and write about them, and then there was like a lecture every day, but you were kind of on your own to go around. And I did some research. I spoke to, my professor at the time, who started the program, but was too old to go there. Anyway, he said, look, there's a market, when you go there, if you're actually interested in, the business side of this, you have to figure out your way to get into the market at the festival, because most of the people going to the Penn and Cannes program were people who were studying film. Not the business side of it, right? They wanted to be filmmakers, writers, producers. I was interested in the business side. So what I did was I went to Staples. I made fake business cards. MR, Michael Repsch, right? MR Marketing, Mr. Marketing. Okay, that was my business card. They were little fake fucking, if they got wet, they would have fucking crumbled.
This is amazing.
I made these fake business cards, and look, security was different then, right? Now you could never do this. But I figured my way out into the market, with these business cards. I would tuck my badge in, and I would just show my business card to the French security guard, and then I don't speak any French. He doesn't speak any English. I just kind of do this, and he let me in. So I went in and I just spoke to anyone and everyone who would talk to me in that market portion, right? And it was just like, that was a huge education for me about like, whoa, this is a film festival, the most prestigious film festival in the world, but it's tied to this market, and this is where everything gets done. This is the movies that are not out yet. These are the things that are being pitched. These are the things that are upcoming. These are the films that are going to debut next in Toronto, because they're not ready, and you can see these teasers. Now, look, when most people are like, fuck off, kid. We don't need any marketing person. But like a lot of people would talk to me, and, that's how I figured out, that this business existed and kind of what it looked like. And I was enthralled by it. And then from there, it was like, I got a job right after college. I had some studio positions where I could basically go work in a mail room, and I'm like, well, this doesn't really work. It's just got a really, really great degree. And I found a small company in Philadelphia that was just about a year and a half old, and I could have a large sphere of influence in there. They brought me in, let me do basically run with it. I started as kind of like a Swiss Army knife for them, no real position, just doing everything. I was still, they couldn't pay me a lot. So I was still working in my job that I had through college, which was, as a sous chef. So I was doing days at the office, working, and then I would go at night and I would, work in the kitchen and, just kind of save money and build experience, and that was it. And then I just ran with it, And then the next thing so that was going into senior year, right? The summer before senior year. The next summer I wasn't in Cannes. I've been to every Cannes since then. With that company, and now with myself. So like when I saw that market, I really knew what I wanted. That's what it was.
That is damn impressive.
Well, yeah. It's a shame you can't make the fake business cards anymore. The security is wild now. There's no chance you could do that.
I think you made a mistake. I think this says President Darkstar Picture. Shouldn't it say Mr. Marketing down at the bottom here?
Mr. It's funny. My mom still, my parents still in Philadelphia. My mom, she's very proud. Bless her heart. She loves and she's so happy. She still can't tell you exactly what I do. She doesn't understand the distribution.
Of course not.
But she's got all of my business cards, all of her children's business cards from various things, and there's still a Mr. Marketing card there. I'm surprised it's lasted. I mean, this thing was made out of like fucking loose leaf.
Right. It's going to disintegrate one of these Christmases or something. That's amazing. Oh, wow. Yeah. God, that is a beautiful story. And I mean, the ingenuity, like obviously there's certain things that nowadays you can't really do, but God, to take it upon yourself when you just have that drive for something. So many of us, and not just to take credit for myself, but that are in this industry for things that they want to do. It starts with similar kind of stories. You just kind of keep knocking on doors until the right one opens. And if that means fake business cards at Staples, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, if they wanted to hire me for marketing, I would have tried.
Right. Exactly.
But it was really like, because we had like fucking job fairs, and, the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, right? It's like very prestigious. And,
right.
You went to Wharton. People think it's so impressive and everything. It was like, yeah, well, when I went to the business fair, the job fair that they had there was nothing there for me. I don't want to go work at Merrill Lynch, like that. It's like selling my fucking soul, Right. People need to do that. And I don't, it's just not for me, and I knew that like right away. And it was a weird time for me because I needed to figure out what the hell I was going to do. But then, it was like stars in my eyes, when I went there, there's still kids who go to Penn and Cannes. I see them every year. So I'm still connected. I'm still connected with the program, and I don't tell them that story because the professor asked me to not tell them about how I broke the rules. But it was if I get them to the side, I tell them that story. I just don't do it in my lectures.
That's probably smart. Probably smart. I mean, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this. This has been an incredible thing. Again, obviously, support Dark Star. Theatrical is important. Support the physical side. Support good people like Mike that are passionate about these sort of things. And at the heart of all this, it's still just about film. I mean, there's indie filmmakers that are working their damnedest, sometimes in their garage with scissors for weeks at a time, sometimes in a foreign country with $14 and doing their best to make something enjoyable that you can sit at home and watch. So, Mike, thanks for sharing your time again. This has just been amazing.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Ryan. I love that you're saying that. I love what you're doing. Here, it's important. Film is a community. And it always has been and it always will be, especially on the indie side. And,
right.
For all you listening out there, don't be scared to try new things. Check it out. Check some stuff out. Watch somebody eat shit in Mother Smuckers. You might like
it. Make a business card if you need to.
That's right. I can send you a template. Thanks, Ryan.
Have a good one.
All right. You too, man.
Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share with someone else that may appreciate this.